If you're looking to freelance as a web designer, this video has everything that you need. For 20 years of experience combined into a single video. My name is Ron Segal, and I've been freelancing as a designer. Over the last 9 years, I've been sharing and documenting my process as I've built my freelance business to over $300,000 a year and sharing thousands of videos with all of my insights in terms of how to find clients, how to raise your prices, how to negotiate, how to create a competitive advantage, everything that you need to succeed as a freelance designer. We took the best beats and put them in this video. You can go ahead and check out the title chapters and skim around if you want to jump into the chapter that's most appropriate for you right now. But I'm sure that if you watch everything and you'll take advice on what you see in this video, you will see results. With that said, let's get started. I want to share with you what I would do if I was just starting out, has zero experience, portfolio, nothing, no connection, nothing, and I want to get my first paying client this weekend. Here's what I'm going to do. So first step, you're going to need a little bit of work examples. Note, I'm not saying you need a portfolio website and you need this and you need this. You just need a few, maybe 4 to 5 good-looking images of designs that you have created to entice people, to show them that you can actually create something. So take a few hours this weekend and just do some design exercises. You know, take like a website and do a redesign for the hero section, or design a book cover that you love, or design an album cover for an artist that you like. Just do like 4 to 5 good looking images, ideally in kind of subjects that you would like to design for, but just create a bunch of nice looking images. That is step number 1. Now, here's step number 2. Take these 4 to 5 good-looking images that you have created and post them on Facebook. This is exactly what I would do. I would post them on Facebook and I would create something like this. I would write, "This weekend only, I'm doing a raffle or a lottery and I am suggesting my design services for one client for free of charge, and I'm willing to design anything that you do. I'm donating my time back to the community, to the people that I love, and I want to donate my time. I will redesign your website or your logo or something like this. The only thing I am asking for is something like, let's say, $200, just to show that you are invested and interested in this kind of like a seriousness fee, just to show that you're actually committed to doing the work together. I'm doing work that is valued by, any other company that you would work with would probably charge you thousands of dollars for this kind of work. I will do it for $200 because I am volunteering my time here." Now, this does few things. First of all, the context is this goes out, if you're posting this on your Facebook or something like this, to your network of people who already know you and like you and trust you. So this is your family, people who you went to school with, people within your community. So these are people who already know who you are. Now you've enticed them with both some nice looking images, so you have proven that you can create some good looking stuff. And then you're also giving them an opportunity, a once in a lifetime opportunity, because they feel like they're getting a chance to win something for a huge discount. Now, this will do 2 things. This will give you a first working experience with a client who is paying you. Yes, they're only paying $200, $300, but that is still great because it will still create the relationship of a client who is paying something, even if they're hugely undervaluing, your work, but they're still paying you and you still have this client-designer relationship. You will hopefully do work for them and they will hopefully be very happy with it. Now, for you as a designer, even if this is your first client, it's going to be rather easy to over-deliver on work valued $200, $300. So that means you're going to provide them with more value than what they paid for, which means they're hopefully going to be happy with your work. And that's going to create a virtuous cycle because they're going to show this work to other people and they're saying, I had a really great time working with this person. I had a great experience. Here's what I got in return. You, in return, got the confidence that you can actually do work for people and get paid for it. So you will now have the confidence to try to get the next client, even charge more money and deliver better work. So a lot of designers don't have a portfolio up. And if you don't have a portfolio up, that's basically There's probably one of two reasons that's happening. One, you've got some works, but you're just like, you're not sure how to design your portfolio. You're not sure about the platform. You never got to it. If that's the case, there's just no excuse. Look, there's so many templates today, platforms, free stuff, paid stuff. And even though if you've been watching my channel, I always talk about, Webflow and doing custom stuff. But come on, if you don't have anything, let not Webflow, the fact that you don't know Webflow or you don't know development, be an excuse. Just go and do something with a template. You can always improve it later on. So just no excuses. Go and do something. If you don't have works, that's where you have to actually do some work before you can put it in a portfolio, right? If you don't have a work, that's where you need to focus on. You need to do some work. And that work can be for yourself, for pro bono. What I would do today, there's a lot of ways to approach this, right? You want to demonstrate that you can solve problems using design. One way to do this is you can go into websites that would give you kind of fake client briefs, and we'll link a few of them in the description below. That kind of gives you the experience of working on a real brief and not just doing kind of a Spotify redesign, which is, I feel like it doesn't really demonstrate how you would solve a problem from scratch, right? So one thing is you can go and do these kind of demos, projects for fake clients. That being said, if I would have to do it today, I would probably not just make a fake project. I would actually try to help someone already with working. And even if they don't pay me, even if this is pro bono, I would frame it as if I want to help you. I believe in you. I'm excited about what you're doing right now. So that can be a local business where you're working that's struggling right now because of, it's 2020. Everybody's struggling. That could be a nonprofit that you look up to, and you can tell them, hey, I'm looking to volunteer. I'm looking to do some project and help you by doing this project for you. Or you can just do something and then gift it for somebody. But I feel like by doing this for an actual client, you would not only benefit from working on a real problem, but you also get this relationship that's built up by actually showing people that you can do something without taking their money. Those people might either hire you later on or maybe recommend you, oh, check out this great designer. He did this for me for free, and not for free in terms of he's cheap or he's willing to work for free, but just because he's passionate and he chose to do it for free. There's few different kinds of free. There's free where your clients doesn't want to pay you. That's because of them and they don't value design. And there's free because you're passionate and you want to do something for other people. And that's why you're not charging them. This is your decision versus their decision. And if you do that kind of free work, I think you can get design experience and build a relationship and improve the world by helping businesses with your skills. So I think that's the fantastic way. Do 1, 2, 3. You don't need more than 1, 2, 3, 4 max. And then you can put up your portfolio, and then you're set up to finding clients, charging for it, and kickstarting your freelance career. The way that I found clients, usually by creating relationships, getting referrals, going to events. But I came to understand after people asking me this over and over again, even after I've shared what worked for me, that sometimes what works for people is different for different people. And so today I want to give you a different perspective on all the different possibilities for you to find clients and help you find the relevant one for yourself. So, as I've said, what worked for me personally is creating relationship with people and referrals. And that's why in this channel, I talked a lot about creating relationship, networking, making friends, that kind of stuff. However, from my experience and meeting with other successful designers, I know that for other people, they have been able to find amazing clients and build a very successful career in completely different channels. So the first thing I want to do here with you is cover all the different possibilities that you have. And then we'll talk about how to understand what will work for you. So let's just cover them pretty quickly. What are all the possible channels for you to find clients? So the first one, as I said, is getting referrals from people that you know, from past clients, from friends, family, and so forth. The second one is that you'll be able to, if you create content on blogs, people might search for that content specifically, and through creating content and SEO, people will come to know you and understand you, and then maybe they want to work with you. So for example, if you're looking to work with people in the music industry, if you will work a lot of articles about, let's say, reviews of music cover designs, if you will write a lot of articles about this, and some musician might Google how to best design my new album, they might reach your content, learn to like you, learn to trust you, and then reach out for you for a project. So that creating content in a blog form and then using search as a way for people to find you is something that can work. YouTube, you're on YouTube right now watching my video. You might be a potential client. You will see how I work, how I think, the kind of work that I'm doing, and you might reach out to me. From my experience, I did get a lot of proposals or relevant clients come to me. Actually, not super relevant clients reach out to me because of my YouTube channel. But honestly, I didn't start my YouTube channel to find clients, just to share my learnings with other designers. So my specific YouTube journey has not been able to, wasn't oriented at finding clients. But my friends, AJ and Smart, who runs, a design agency, they've opened up their YouTube channel strategically for attracting clients. They're talking a lot about the design sprints, and then everybody who end up clients who are looking to work with somebody to facilitate a design sprint, found them on YouTube, and they got, as far as I know, a lot of their clients from YouTube. So YouTube might work for different people. Dribbble, a lot of people open up Dribbble accounts, and Dribbble has a search function. So somebody might look for, I'm based in Boston, so I'm looking for another designer who is based in Boston. Let's see who's trending. Let's see who's the best in Boston. They might search for, the specific topics, UX, web design, whatever. They might find you and off Dribbble, and they might even hire you through Dribbble. So Dribbble and actually Behance, which is pretty similar because Behance also has some kind of a search mechanism. Those can be channels for you. By opening up a website there, a portfolio there, you can find clients. LinkedIn is now at the moment, 2019, super, super hot. I know a lot of people who are finding most of their clients off LinkedIn, again, by creating content, by creating relationship, by being inside groups, they might find clients. So again, this is a social network that is focused on creating business relationships. So obviously most of your clients are there. If they are business owners or that kind of stuff, they might be on LinkedIn. Another one, going to events, that's kind of similar to referrals, but it's also a way to go and meet potential clients at, conferences that are relevant to their topic. So if I'm working with clients in the startup industry, I go to startup events and I meet people. We have a drink, we talk. What do you do? What do? I create relationship. They ended up hiring me. So events is another way of meeting clients. Cold emails. You might do a research. If I want to work with a restaurant, I'll look at restaurants that I want to build their website. I might reach out to them, send them some kind of a case study about how I can improve their website, create a relationship, and demonstrate my expertise that way. And then that might lead into a paying project. I know I'm going super, super fast on this, but I just want to give you kind of an overview of what's possible. The next one is side project. So a lot of designers, in particular, do things that they enjoy for themselves, and they share it perhaps on social media, and then potential clients might look for that. So I've met this amazing Australian girl. Honestly, I forgot her name, but she's amazing with typography. And she just did typography back home, like this crazy illustration with type, shared it on social media, on Instagram. A lot of people like this. Now she's like all over the world, painting walls and doing like work for high profile clients just because she did what she's passionate about and shared it, not as client work, but just as a side project on her own social network. So that's also a thing. By the way, I did not mention social networks here, actually, such as Instagram. But Instagram, you might say that it's another channel, kind of like Dribbble or Behance, where you might put your portfolio on there and people might find you through there and DM you and create a relationship with you. Another one is using paid ads. So another thing that you might want to do is create paid ads, let's say on Facebook, where you're targeting the specific client that you want to address. And you can create, I've seen some people that are creating some kind of a case study funnels where the client will actually see an ad for a case study. Let's say you're designing websites. So again, restaurants owner, you're targeting restaurants owner, and then they're going to click on a video that showcases how you have designed a website or a brand for a different restaurant owner. That will build the trust, and that will lead for them to contact you at the end. So kind of a funnel like this where you're reaching them through ads. And the last one, I feel like I'm really running them really fast, but it's still, we're 7 minutes in, so there's a lot to cover here. The last one is freelancing website such as Upwork, freelancer.com, or all those type of stuff. I know they're being kind of bashed down as not a good place to find clients, but I do know personally people who are very, very successful on using those channels, and they're still managing to be kind of premium sellers on these platforms. So if you're really, really good and you've kind of won this channel, if you're on Upwork and you've got gazillions of good reviews, you can put your prices higher and you can make a very, very nice, pay and compensation if you've kind of won this specific channel. Okay. Now that we know, it's kind of overwhelming. Oh my God, do I need to actually do all of these things? Which one is the right one for me? So the truth is, if you're just starting out, you're probably not going to be able to tell, okay? And I know that, again, I'm sharing all the time what I'm doing and what worked for me, but you have to be careful when you listen to me in general. When you're listening to people giving advice, you always have to be careful, because the people who are giving advice, me included, are always biased to share what worked for them, and that's not what works for everybody else. You really need to understand yourself. So my advice for you would be if you're just starting out, you need to dabble into a few things and see what works for you, because each one of these channels requires different skills, requires different mentality. So for example, if you want to succeed at referrals and going to events, for example, you need to be kind of a people person, right? You need to love to network and to meet with people and step outside what a lot of people have kind of outside their comfort zone, because they don't like going and socializing with other people. But that's what it takes to win that specific game. If you want to succeed on Dribbble, for example, and you have to know the platform, because Dribbble is a totally different play. You have to learn how to gain followers, how to interact with the community, and that's how you kind of build yourself on that platform. It requires totally different skills. So here's what I suggest. I suggest before you get started, you ask yourself a few questions that will help you understand where you should focus yourself. Okay, so the first thing that you want to ask yourself is, what does it take to win with this specific channel? And as I've mentioned, each of them has kind of a different skills. Each of them is a different play. And you have to ask yourself, do I want to keep doing that thing long term? Will I actually enjoy doing this? Because, to win with ads, for example, you have to be really, in a way, pushy and salesy and gain attention, be kind of dramatic. And maybe you're not the kind of person that wants to be that way, right? Maybe it's just not for you. So you have to understand, first of all, what works in this channel. You can't say, okay, I want to win at Dribbble, right? But you don't know how to do these maybe beautiful composition. You don't know how to interact with the community. You don't know how to gain followers, because by gaining followers, you gain kind of trust within the platform, and that's probably what people are going to look for. So you really need to do your research in a way. And actually, I think that you can actually Google something like, what does it take to grow on Dribbble, for example, or how to do successful ads. You need to do kind of a research and understand the core skills of each of these channels. And then to understand if you think you're going to enjoy doing it long term. Some of those things, to be honest, you probably can't just know without doing, right? You have to experiment a little bit, and it's possible that you'll experiment with different channels in the beginning to see what works. But you also have to consider, when you ask yourself, am I going to have an edge? Because each one of these channels is a competitive channel, right? a lot of people. There's a lot of people who are trying to win on Dribble, on Instagram, on Behance. There's huge competition there. And you have to think, do I have what it takes to win on that platform? So I'll go back to my example just because that's how I'm thinking about this. So in terms of referrals and building network and going to events, I have an edge because I live specifically in Tel Aviv, Israel, where there is a very big tech industry and startup communities. And so I'm very close by. I can just walk 10 minutes to an event right now where most of the people in the world don't have access because it's not walking distance for them, right? So I only have to compete in terms of events and networking. I only have to compete with the people who are around me in Tel Aviv area. And I know that most people feel uncomfortable going to events. It's out of their comfort zone, as I said. So actually, by me being able to do that and loving actually to go outside and meet people, I have kind of beat a lot of the competition. If I would want to win on Dribble, that's a completely different game for me, okay? Because now I'm competing with designers all over the world. So it's a different game. However, depending on where you are, because I know a lot of you are writing to me, I don't live in a big city. There is no clients nearby or events nearby. So that means that you don't have an edge on referrals. You might have an edge on something else, and you have to think about this. And your edge could be your ability, your skill, where you are, how much you charge. All of these things can be an edge for you to win on a specific platform. So that's what I want to encourage you to do. I want you to encourage you to experiment with multiple things and see what you enjoy doing and what you're starting to gain traction with. And obviously, all of this to win on a certain channel takes time. It takes time to build yourself. And so one of the things that after you experiment and you see what you're good at or what's working for you, I want to encourage you to focus, okay, and select the one that works and then leave all the rest and double down on that. Because the way that this channel works is once the ones who are at the top get most of the work, right? So the people who are on Upwork and have the amazing reviews, okay, they can charge $200 an hour. The 1% of freelancers on Upwork that have all these good reviews, amazing reviews, they can charge $200 an hour, while the rest of the people on Upwork are charging whatever, $15 an hour. So the people who win take the most of the pot. The people who have, 40,000 followers on Dribble are going to get most of the offers on Dribble. And if you try to do everything, if you're trying to be everywhere, try to be on LinkedIn and on Instagram and maintain this and this and that and a blog and a YouTube, you're just going to overwhelm yourself and you're going to stay very small on all channels. And most probably you're not going to get amazing leads because you're not going to win any specific channel. So what I encourage you is experiment at the beginning because you're not going to know what's working. You're not going to know what you enjoy doing and what it takes to win. So you need to explore a little bit when you're starting out. But when something is working, don't dilute your efforts by trying to win everywhere and be everywhere. I don't have a LinkedIn profile. My portfolio has been very much neglected over the past 2 years. I basically don't do anything besides develop relationship because that's what's working for me. And all the rest of the things are, kind of a waste of time for me. Just a quick note that everything that you're seeing right now is just the tip of the iceberg, and we have full-on courses to help you build your career as a freelance web designer. So please check the links below this video if you want to go in depth, if you want to work with our mentors and take your freelance business seriously. Now let's get back to it. First thing I want to cover here is understanding the actual framework, the high level of what we're trying to do so that we can put the practical things actually in context. So the first thing, when people hire other people or buy stuff, they usually do it because there's 3 things that are going right. And those 3 things is they know this thing, they know that this product or service or person exists. Otherwise, obviously, they can't hire if they don't know that they can hire this person. They like this person, right? They They think it's going to be great to work with them. And then they trust that this person is actually capable of doing the work and solving their problems. So everything that we're going to say here, we're going to think about these three things: know, like, trust, and how to build a situation where a lot of people know about us, or at least the right people know about us, they like us, and they actually trust us. And again, assuming that you're just starting out, you probably don't have too much going on in these areas, right? No, you don't have a big brand yet. Not a lot of people know about you. So this is your situation. Now, another kind of thing that I want you to think about is you need to have some kind of an advantage, some kind of a competitive advantage. And you might say, yeah, I'm just starting out. I have zero competitive advantage, right? I don't have a big portfolio. I'm not that amazing yet. Like, why would anybody hire me? And I get it. And you're probably somewhat right. You don't have a huge advantage. However, everybody has somewhat of an advantage. And that's what I want to talk about in this episode. What is your advantage when you're just starting out, and how you can carve out that advantage? Now, the first thing that is advantage is, I would try to think about it this way. Where can I play that in a situation where I have almost zero competition, right? And that is just framing the question that way can lead up to a lot of interesting ideas. So the first place where you have a big advantage is your friends and family. Why? Because, they know you, right? And they probably know that you've now gotten into design and you want to do this freelancing thing. And these people like you, obviously, because they are your friends and family, and they trust you because you've already spent years unrelated to design or freelancing, building a relationship with them, and they trust you. So with these people, with this very, very small circle of people, you already have those three things: know, like, and trust. And that's why you will find out that most people who have started out, me included, but almost everybody around, started out doing freelance or projects, or actually getting paid by the closest circle of friends and family, because there they have an advantage, right? Even if, imagine, let's take a radical example, right? But my mother, right? If my mother would have to choose between me doing a project for her or somebody else who might be very famous, might be very, very good, she would probably still give the project to me just because she likes me so much and trusts me. She wants to see me succeed. Now, this is a radical example, but it is the way that it works. Some people within your very, very close circle of network, and that can be friends and family, that can be people that went to school with you, that can be people within your community, your church, whatever. Those people like you and trust you so much and want to see you succeed that they would give you an advantage even over somebody with a better portfolio, more famous, more capable, or something like that. So with this small circle, you have an advantage. That's why I do suggest you start off looking for projects over there, and you do that by first just letting people know that you are looking for doing these kinds of projects. I want to help you build a website. I want to help you design this logo. You let them know that this is what you're doing, and those people are going to have your back and try to give you a project. Now, if you get this ball rolling, that will help you build a portfolio, build a confidence, build an expertise. If they have a good experience with you, they're going to recommend you to other friends, and then through this recommendation, the trust is going to roll over to people in an extended circle, and that's going to grow your network. And for most people, that's actually how they get the ball rolling. Okay, so that is kind of like the first super basic, which is what, again, a lot of people, maybe even most people, do to get started. Now, I would still try to think about what other things can I have an advantage on. And the next thing that I want to share with you is try to be as local as possible. And what do I mean by that? A lot of people today, especially if they're not coming from a hot market like I'm living on, in the US in a big city, if they're living in a rural area, they one of the most common things I will hear is, I want to work for global international clients around the world because perhaps I'll be better paid and so forth, and it's more interesting. That being said, everybody is competing for these cool, high-paying, amazing projects. And as I said, if you're just starting out, you want to look for the things where you have some a competitive advantage. And when you look in your local market, and a local market can be your city, your town, again, your community or something like that, that's when you have an advantage. Why? Because you are actually there. You can actually go down the street to this restaurant or this local business, meet these people face to face, shake their hand and offer to help them. And in that local area, there is way less competition than if you just go on the internet and, everybody's on there, right? So the easy thing would be just like, let me just email a random person from the other side of the world. But you can assume that if you can email that random person around the world, gazillion of other people are going to do that as well. But if you're the only one who can walk down the street and shake the hand of somebody, even though it might feel a little less comfortable to you, you have a huge advantage because there's literally not that many people who can walk down the streets and do that. Now, of course, it doesn't have to be going down the streets and shaking hands, but what I have been seeing, for example, we teach a lot of people how to use Webflow, and what I have been seeing is that people who try to do local Webflow services within their region, just because right now there's not too many people who can offer building websites with Webflow, so the market is already limited. And if you're trying to, limit, I'm based, let's say, in Tel Aviv, Israel. So if I offer Webflow services to clients within Tel Aviv, there's the market or the competition that I have within this city or region is way less smaller, and you can assume, and I think it's an accurate assumption, that most clients would rather work with people who are within their vicinity, who can perhaps come into their office. And right, this is pre-COVID, let's say. Right now everybody works remotely anyway, but it's still worthwhile that you are in the same city or in the same time zone, speaking the same language, and have the same cultural understanding of what's going on. So when you try to focus on a very small or at least contained local market, you again create yourself a big advantage. So I'm saying this again because the obvious thing, or the thing that most people are trying to do, is hit up on these huge global market. Let me get this San Francisco startup or something like that. And I'm just saying, yes, it's okay, you can do that, but there's tons of competition there. Try to think about where can you compete with an advantage, and I think that within your local market, you'll have a huge advantage. The last thing that I can say about, again, creating some kind of advantage for you is how can you be part of small groups that are also contained, right? That there's kind of a, again, limited number of people competing within that. A great example that I have been seeing, again, with people who are doing Webflow right now is the Webflow Experts program. Because the program is very limited, people who apply, not a lot of people get in, but the people who are in this program, because it's kind of a database of pretty small number of people who are in this database, everybody who's on there, basically, there's more demand than supply within this group, and most people are getting tons and tons of lead. But this is just one example, and you can, again, do that either locally, but again, joining groups like local designer chapters, or even communities such as churches, being part of a small group where you know that this group is not going to extend anymore, and everybody within this closed group knows that this is the service that you're doing, again, gives you an advantage. All right, so to sum up what we've been talking about here, the overarching strategy of what you're trying to do is you're trying to get people to know you, like you, and trust you. And you want to think about it, the first stage, how can I create an advantage for myself by limiting the number of people that I am competing with when trying to find clients. I've been talking about this in a lot of other videos. You might have heard me talking about the fact that you should never try to sell websites to your clients, because nobody really cares about buying a website. All your clients care about is solving their own problems. However, I don't think I've had the proper framework to explain to you how to talk and how to become experts on these problems, but I've just finished reading a book that was actually a very good book. It's called Gap Selling. It's a book about sales. I'll put the link in the description below, and I highly recommend you read it if you want to become expert on sales. However, basically the bottom line in this book is that, if you want, you have to sell about solving the problem and talk about the problems, but it offered a really interesting framework for understanding the impact of these problems and how to communicate them. So I want to share that with you and how I think about web design problems based on that framework. And what you'll get in this video is understanding kind of the roadmap of what the problems are that you need to become experts on, and what are the topics that you need to learn in order to become experts on, and then also how to communicate and talk about these problems with your clients. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run through all of the problems, and then we'll start diving deeper into some of them to give you a framework into how to think about them. All right, so let's get started. Here are a lot of the problems that web designers solve for businesses. So number one, customers can't find us online. Number two, customers don't understand what we do or how we're different. Number three, customers don't trust us. Number four, customers can't buy online from us. Customers can't book services online. Customers can't find the right information. We don't show up on Google. We don't capture enough leads. Not enough visitors are converting. We need to impress potential employees or investors. The website looks bad on mobile. We look outdated. Our website is hard to maintain. Our website is not compliant with regulation. Our competitors have better websites. We don't look premium enough or big enough or innovating enough. Our marketing manager needs to make an impact. Our clients feel ashamed when they're showing their websites to clients, prospects, and friends. So this is quite a big list. Perhaps it's not exhaustive, and different clients in different niches might have other problems that you'll need to discover. And definitely not all businesses or not all clients are going to have all of these problems, but this is a pretty big set of problems that most of the people you'll talk about will have them. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to understand what these problems are. What are the causes for these problems? How do you solve these problems with design, with web design? And then how to talk about the problems and their impacts and their root causes with your client. So let's dive into some of them and understand. Basically, the framework that Keenan suggested in the book Gap Selling is when you understand these problems, you list them up and you create a table that he calls the problem identification matrix. And basically what you have is in row number one, you have the problem, and then you have the impact on the business, and then you have what I know about the problem. Here's how the table should look like. Problem, impact on business, and then what I know about the problem. All right, so let's go back into the problems we have and try to work through some of these things and dissect them in this way. So let's go with customers don't trust us. Why is this actually a problem for the business? What's the impact on this business? All right, so when customers don't trust you, let's say your customer visit your website and then they don't trust you. What is the impact? Why does this matter? Well, it matters because if they're not trusting you, they're probably not going to do business with you. So the impact on the business is they're not buying from you, or they're not contacting you, or they're not doing business with you. Basically means you are either losing money or definitely not making as much money as you'd like to. And by the way, most of these things, most of the problems that I showed you on the list, when it's going to be translated into impact on the business, just because the goal of businesses is usually to make money, then a lot of the impact is going to be these things may cause the fact that are impacting your ability to make money, or they're making you lose money, or they're creating a headache for the owner or whoever is managing the process. So when customers don't trust us, you're losing money. Now, what do I know about this problem? This is where you become an expert on this problem. And I'm just going to share with you some of my knowledge about what creates trust in a website, right? So there's a lot of things. First of all, how it looks and feel, right? So we as human beings, we have a bias, right? In our mind, this is a very well-known psychology effect, in which case we are biased to think that beautiful things are just better, right? This is how we are wired, and this is a very well-known psychology effect. And so when we see something that is ugly or not aligned, not a good color combination, bad fonts, all of these things, immediately our brain is wired to think this is not trustworthy, right? Because this is bad. And the other way around, right? If everything is aligned, if everything is well taken care of, if the images are high quality, if the font is high quality, if everything is set up correctly, then we immediately, psychologically, even if our customers or your customers, your clients' customers don't understand anything about design, they are wired, that their brain is wired to understand that. So here it is. I'm sharing with you, me, Ron, the web design expert, I'm now sharing with the potential clients my knowledge about this problem. And I can share with them and I can educate them about the fact that because of this psychological effect, the current website that they have hurt their sale and hurt their trustworthiness, and I can back that up with data, with research. Now I can keep talking about the problem of, trust. I can also say that one of the things that causes trust in general, right, is what's called social proof, meaning if you see other people have trusted and have used this business as service in the past before, that's going to create trust. That's why reviews and testimonials and that kind of things help create trust, and they're being used all over the place, not only in website, in sales in general. And so I can come up and make the recommendation. If we want to increase the trust in your website, we can add one of these things like reviews, numbers, testimonials, all these kind of things. So the fact that I am an expert on this particular problem of creating trust helps me to educate the client about the problem that they have right now in their business, how it's impacting their business, they're losing money over it, and also what needs to be done in order to solve this problem. Now, when I talk about this, even if you are now the client and I'm just explaining this to you, first of all, I'm providing value to you right now by educating you on the problem. You might not even know that you have this problem and that your business might be losing money because it's badly designed, because it lacks social proof, and so forth and so forth. And so just by helping them and educating them, I show them that I am an expert, and immediately they will say, wow, this person is smart. This person knows about this problem. This person knows how to solve this problem. I want to work with this person to help me solve my problem. And we can keep going. Let's tackle another problem. Customers can't find the right information. All right, so we can talk about this. What is the impact of customers can't find the right information? Well, they might be frustrated. They might leave the website. They might have a bad user experience. They might leave a negative review. They might be angry. They might not purchase from you. So the impact on that is as well probably translates into you're going to lose sale, you're going to lose your customers, you're going to annoy them, and you're missing out. What do I know about the problem of can't find the right information? Well, now we can talk about information architecture and how to structure information correctly, and the flow of user experience, and how to start and how to tell a story correctly, and how to set up proper navigation, and how to set up a footer so that all the information is exactly where the user expects it, and how we can solve that problem of not being able to find the right information. So I think you can start to understand how we become expert and how we communicate these problems to the clients and what needs to be done in order to solve these problems. Now, as you can see, and from the example that I've shared with you already, you can see that actually, as a web designer, you need to become an expert on quite a lot of things, right? You need to be expert on the visual design, right? If you understand that choosing the right fonts and colors and stuff like that is going to help build trust, you need to become an expert on that. If you understand that psychology and how you structure and understanding principles like social proof and things like that are going to help build trust, then you need to become an expert on these psychological effects. If you understand that structuring the information in the right way is going to make it easier for people to find the right information, then you need to become an expert on information architecture. So in web design, it's actually a very broad field where you need to become an expert on these various different topics in order to become an expert on solving all of these different problems that we talked about that we can help our clients solve. And this is what I want to encourage you to do. First of all, that's what we try to do here on the Flux YouTube channel. And in our courses, we try to help you become an expert on solving all of these different problems. But I want to encourage you to dive deep into each one of these topics so that you can develop really the expertise, so that you'll know what you're talking about when you're talking to your clients and helping them solve the problems that they have. I want to share kind of an insight that I had with a conversation of one of our students who we were talking, and she mentioned that she's working on a project with her client, but she calculated her hourly rate for the project that she was working on, and she understood that actually at the end of the day, she's not making a lot or even enough money per hour to make this project worthwhile. So let me share the numbers just so that you can wrap your head around it. So basically, she was making a website project and she was charging $4,000 for it. But she was calculating how long she has been working and about to work on this project and realized this project is about 200 hours of work all included. And so that came out mathematically pretty simple. You divide this by this to understanding that she's making $20 per hour, and that wasn't really what she was looking for. That wasn't really enough for her. So looking at this, looking at the plan and looking at her past kind of like performance or how long things took her to create this type of website, she came to me and she said, "Ron, I have to work faster. I mean, I have to like increase my speed at least 2 times, because if I'll work 100 hours, then that will make my effective hourly rate at around $40. And that's more like where I'd like to be. So how do I work faster? How do I, what can we remove here, or what can we do to work faster?" And I was looking at her plan, and to be honest, that plan was pretty solid. That was actually a really nice plan that included strategy, included a story brand workshop, including all of the wireframes and everything that is required to make a really nice website. Now, I always encourage people to work faster, and I'm telling you people here how working with Webflow can make your process faster. And I'm always into helping you work faster, because at the end of the day, just like she understood, if you work faster, that translates into more money per hour. But looking at her, like what she showed me, I was like, I think this is a really good pace. I think for what you're trying to deliver, this is actually pretty good. So she was like, okay, so what do I do? I'm stuck. This is not good enough. And I told her, no, that's actually not true. And you actually have 2 more levers that you can actually use when negotiating your price for the project to make sure that you're making the hourly rate that you want. So let's talk about them. There's actually 3 solutions to solve this. The first one, which she recognized off the bat, is working less hours by working faster. And this is ideally, you want to do this. However, at a certain point, you're reaching a point where if you work faster, you'll probably reduce the quality of the work that you're doing. So you can't cut corners, or you can't work faster forever. There's a limit to that. So what are the other 2 options? Well, the other 2 option is, 1, you can work less hours by actually reducing the scope of the project. So assuming that the client only has this budget and they're going to pay $4,000 for this website, now you can say, okay, with this price, to be honest, we can't do everything that we wanted off the bat. So let's make decisions about how to simplify this project. There are some things that we can remove. Perhaps we can remove this story brand workshop to develop your story. Perhaps we can move this page with tons of interactivity, or perhaps we can remove all of ideas for animations or something like this to simplify the project, or some other complexity through the website. Perhaps we can turn this into a 1-pager instead of a 10-page website, still reach the same business goals that you have, but it's going to be easier to maintain. So one thing that you can do is negotiate the scope of the project. The other thing that you can do, and it sounds obvious, but it's not obvious to a lot of people, is you can just charge more money for the same project. Obviously, if she would charge double and still work 200 hours on it, her hourly rate would double as well. Now, this is where a lot of people kind of like, they have this frame of reference where, no, they will probably only pay this much. But I'm telling you, I looked at her kind of like her process and what she was about to do for them. And honestly, that's exactly what I would do. And I would charge at least $10,000 for the same kind of work. So it's just kind of your frame of mind and understanding. As we said, let's call it the quality that people get for 200 hours of a professional designer. That's the standard that she wanted to provide. That's her quality standard. And I know that for this quality standard, people can charge a lot more money. So, you are the one who puts the quality in place, right? You can make the decision of, I can do the same, everything that I've promised to them, all of the different pages, all of the different possibilities, interactions, all of the different things. And I'll do this only for $100 because I'll work super, super fast. And the quality probably is going to be different. So you are the one who's choosing what kind of quality you want to provide, how long it's going to take you to provide this, and then how much are you going to charge for this. So these are, in general, the 3 levers that you can use when negotiating a project. And I always want you to remember that when you have a discussion with a client about a project, it's not just one project in one price. There are multiple elements and multiple levers that you can negotiate. You can negotiate the price, you can negotiate the scope, you can negotiate the timeline, you can negotiate the payment terms, you can negotiate all kinds of other help that you're going to get from them. Maybe they're going to write the content, maybe they're going to do the development. There are tons and tons of different leverages or levers that you can pull through, and you can, it's a creative process, honestly, pricing a project and coming into an agreement that will make your hourly rate, effective hourly rate at the end of you working on this project and the client happy is a creative process. And I do want you to think about all the different possibilities that you can do. And also remember, do what my student did and make this estimate of how long are you going to work on the project to understand at the end of the day what's your effective hourly rate is going to be, to make sure that you're making as much money as you know you should be doing. So I'm currently reading a book, really good book by Charlie Munger. He's the partner of Warren Buffett, but mostly nobody talks about him. Anyway, he said something really interesting in the book, which is he has a favorite quote, which is basically, I wish you would tell me where I'm going to die so that I can not go there ever. And basically what he was trying to say with that quote is that a lot of time people are really trying to understand or learn something like how to succeed, but it's sometimes much more easier if you try to learn the opposite of it. So how do people fail, and then just try to not do the mistakes that everybody else is doing. And he says there's nothing more common than people, losing their business because of very stupid mistake that tons of people did before them, but because they never bothered to learn history or why other people are failing, they're doing the same mistake that everybody else is doing. So it's very unoriginal and very kind of lazy not to see why other people are failing and try to learn it by yourself and then doing the same mistakes over again. So I took some time to think and see around me, how a lot of my friends started freelancing and then burned out and closed their business and went back to working full-time for somebody else, and try to realize why that happened so I can share these mistakes with you so that you can avoid them and be successful with your freelance business. So let's get started with the 5 things that you need to do if you want to be a failure as a freelance designer. So keep that in mind. Let's start with number 1. The number 1 thing you need to do if you want to fail as a freelancer is do not have a systematic way to attract client. Just wait there and trust that somebody might recommend you or a client might call you one day, and everything is going to be all right. Now, even though it might sound funny to you, that's basically how most freelancers work, right? They have people coming into them, and usually it works. So sometimes they have better months, sometimes they have weaker months, but overall, things are okay. Now, they might be nervous on time to time, especially in times like right now with pandemic and recession. They might not know what's going to happen next. But the thing is that for most of their history as freelancers, they basically relied on luck. And the fact that they had good luck up until now make them confident that things are going to be okay. But as we can see right now, not necessarily everything is going to be okay, and not necessarily, as they say in investment, past performance does not guarantee, future performance. So just the fact that people were reaching out to you previously does not promise that you're going to be lucky in the future. So what can you do about this? How can you avoid this mistake? You can start working on channels that can systematically bring in leads for your business as a freelancer. When you're doing active marketing, such as producing content or going to events or doing ads, or there's actually multiple of different marketing channels that you can do, that if you take specific actions, you're going to see specific results, and that is predictable versus just waiting for things to happen. So if you want to fail again, just wait for everything to be okay and wait for yourself to be lucky. Number thing that you can do to fail as a freelancer is don't charge enough for your work. And this is another classic mistake that everybody's doing. I don't want to raise my prices. Maybe my clients are going to run away. And actually, I don't even really know what does it mean to charge enough? Because the thing is, most freelancers never went down and did the calculation of their break-even rate. Like, how much do I actually need to earn for every hour that I work on every day, so that at the end of the month or at the end of the year, I'll be able to pay myself, to pay for rent, to pay for food, to pay for all of my debts. They never go down and do this calculation. Why? Because it's boring and it's not creative and it's not what I thought freelancing is going to be about. So if you want to fail as a freelancer, you can keep that ignorant state of mind where if it's not creative, it's not your job to do. Don't worry about finances and just price whatever you want because you've heard other people might be pricing that, or because that's what your clients are willing to pay. And you'll find out at the end of the month if you're broke or not. But this is a sure way of making sure that you'll fail as a freelancer. If you want to avoid that, as I've mentioned, take the time to sit down, understand your finances, learn how to calculate your break-even rate, learn how to estimate how much to charge for each project, and raise your prices to make sure that at the end of the month, you'll have enough to pay yourself. Now, the third thing that you can do if you want to be a failure as a freelancer is you can treat your clients like they are your enemies. And this is a very, very common, almost a lot of the freelancers that I know are doing this, and this is very popular. You can even see this in all the humor accounts where, the client is always the evil one and they're always treating the freelancer like crap. And so if you want to fail, you can keep that attitude and you can always blame them for everything that goes wrong, and you can hate, going on calls with them or going to their office or doing what they're asking you to do. Because at the end of the day, you're in the service business, and so they expect for you to give them good service. So if you want to fail, make sure you're giving them crappy service by not loving to serve them, right? If you want to avoid that failure, change your mindset, understand that you are in the service business, and so that you need to actually enjoy giving them good service and treating them like kings and queens versus treating them like they are your enemies. The fourth thing that you can do if you want to fail as a freelancer is never to invest in learning new skills, because what has been working up until now might keep working and you love doing this. And you can see all the great examples, like me, for example, where I invested a lot of time in learning how to develop and build websites using Flash. And some of my colleagues stuck to it even when Flash died, and they have become truly irrelevant today. So if you want to make sure that you're failing, never learn new skills like Webflow or new technologies that are coming up. Stick with what you know. Stick with freehand. Stick with Quartz Express. Stick with Flash and freehand and what's going on 10 years ago, what worked for you 10 years ago, and don't bother learning what's going on today because, who loves learning new software, right? It sucks. It's not really fun. So don't bother with that. Just keep doing what you did 10 years ago. And the last thing that you can do to for sure fail as a freelancer is just don't take care of yourself, right? Keep working 12 hours or 15 hours per day, 7 days a week, work nights, work weekends. Don't take care of yourself, because at the end of the day, you are your freelance business biggest asset. So if you want to make sure that you burn out and that you can't keep working anymore, make sure you work yourself down to the ground, and you'll burn out for sure. This is a sure way. If you want to burn yourself down as a freelancer, just make sure that you work all the time, that you work alone, that you don't interact with other people, and that you basically suffer all day long. And of course, if you want to avoid that, take care of yourself, eat properly, work out, sleep, and be reasonable. Assuming the first meeting went well and they wanted to proceed with you, you've probably sent a proposal with your price by now. Now, we're not talking about proposals this week just because I want to stay in the context of sales, and we're going to talk about proposals later on when we're talking about the whole operations. But let's say that you've sent them a proposal. Now they're probably, in most cases, negotiate. Sometimes they're just going to say yes and sign it, and that's amazing. But in most cases, they're going to negotiate. So let's talk about how you're going to do that successfully. First of all, it's important to have the right mindset when negotiating. And the mindset is that everybody needs to win. Okay, because the reason that I say this is when I was starting out, I thought that I needed to get what I wanted. I had the notion of I gave them a good price and I wrote a fair proposals. And if they're going to negotiate with me, they're kind of disrespecting me and they are not giving me what I want. And I needed to win, meaning get what I want. And I wasn't willing to give them anything back. And that kind of creates a situation where they can't feel like they won. They got what they wanted. And so you need to be in the state of mind of how are we going to find a way where both of us can win. And I want to help you think about that. So basically, here's how you think about it. Of course, for every project, there is kind of an acceptable range that you're willing to work with. So let's assume from a very cheap price to a very high price. You have a range, right? Obviously, you'd like to make as much money as possible, but you probably have some kind of a minimum for the project where if you get less than that, it's probably not worth your time. You can either probably get another project or do something else, but you're not going to do that project for so much, for so little money because it's just unprofitable for you. So you have kind of a range to work with. Now, the client themselves also have kind of a range. Now, obviously, every client would like to get the work done for a cheaper price because they're a business and they're trying to save money, but they have kind of a maximum point that they're willing to spend. Okay, so you have a minimum price point and they have a maximum price point, and you never really know that. However, everything that's in between, everything that's overlapping is where a deal can happen and both of you will be happy. Okay, so even if you don't get what you initially wanted, if you're not starting with your minimum point, then you can still lower your price and find something that is acceptable for you. And the same is true for them, even if they're going to pay a little bit more than what they expected. So there's a wiggle room here, okay? And the point here, obviously you'll try to maximum, you'll try to get to the higher end of the deal range, and they'll try to get to the lower end of the deal range. And that's kind of the wiggle room of the negotiation. That's what's happening right now. However, both of you want to make sure that there's a deal. Otherwise, you both, just spent a lot of time and wasted time and energy, and nobody really wants that. So you need to assume that they do want to have a deal and that you both want to win and need to win. And there's actually probably a lot of wiggle room in between. Okay. So the first key takeaway from this is that you need to ask for more than you actually want to get, or at least a lot more than your minimum price point. And again, I struggled a lot with this because I thought that the honest thing to do was to start with my minimum price range. But that did not allow me to have any wiggle room. And the truth is, clients do expect to have this game of negotiation because that's just how business runs. Okay, it's not because they're disrespecting me. It's because they have the assumption, which is most of the time correct, that people are actually charging more than their minimum price. Okay, so then we have this dance of negotiation. But if you don't play this game, if you start out
by pricing your minimum price range, you don't have the range to play, but you can't really tell them that, right? Because you can't say, oh, I've started with they won't believe you because they assume that you act like everybody else. And so you do need to play this game. And I'm going to share some tactics about how you can play this game better so that you can win and get more out of that wiggle room. So the first thing is to use odd numbers. And by using odd numbers, I mean never price your project $1,000, $2,000, $5,000. The reason is when the number is round and perfect, it looks like, it was just made up, okay? Versus when you say that your price is $4,753, that number looks more calculated. It looks like you went through some kind of a process and calculated the hours and the materials and everything that goes into it. And so it looks like you've put in a lot of effort and you didn't just pull out the number from your whatever, and came up with the number of 5,000. It looks like you put in a lot of work into it. And so the clients will be less likely to negotiate hard because they will assume that you've already did some of the calculation yourself and the number is probably reasonable. Note, this is psychological, okay? So even if you decided that you want to price the project $5,000, it's better if you write $4,953, which is, only like a $50 difference, but it will look like you already did. They will be less likely to negotiate a lower price because it looks like you did a hard work and you didn't just come up with the number of 5,000. The second thing is always you need to show goodwill. And showing goodwill is meaning that you want the deal to happen, right? And you tell them this out front. You tell them, look, I'm excited to work with you. I want to make this work. Let's figure out a way to make both sides happy. They need to know that your agenda here is that both sides will win. And you're not trying to screw them. You're not trying to win them over. You're not trying to trick them. You're here to work together with them, even if it takes some work. Okay, you're not avoiding, you're not running away, you're not lazy. You want to work together with them, okay, because this negotiation takes some time and takes some effort, and you need to understand what they want, and you need to rethink, and maybe you need to change your proposal a little bit. But if you tell them, look, I'm here because I want to work with you, and we'll find a way, that gives them confidence that you're in there with them. Again, goes back to what we talked previously on sales. You want to help them and you want to be helpful and find a way to make this happen. Of course, you have to find a way that works for them, but it also works for your business, but it shows that you care and you want to work with them, and it gives them the confidence to keep working with you. Now, when they will ask for a discount, and they will a lot of time ask for a discount, you need to flinch. What does it mean? Flinching, okay? It means that you need to show them, and that's a little bit of an acting, but it's important. You need to show that it's painful for you, okay? So for example, let's take an example. Let's say I've priced the project at $5,000, okay? But actually, I can go down into $4,000 and still, make a profit. So let's say they say, give us a discount, and I can say, that's really tough. I'm not really sure how I can do this. Let me think about this. You know what? I really want to work with you. So, let's find a way to make this happen. So at the end of the day, I might give them, what they want, but because I flinch, because I show them how painful it is for me, that's giving them the psychological feeling that first they did something painful to me, and the second is that they're winning, right? Because they want to have the feeling that they squeezed you to the end. All right, that's just business practice, not because they're bad people. Again, so you need to show them that it's painful, and that will decrease the likelihood of them pushing you because they already saw that it's painful. So they don't want to inflict too much pain on you. Okay, hopefully at this point they like you and they do want to work with you. Now, one thing that is a little bit technical is trying to avoid saying the word no, just because it puts you in a kind of a negative, if you're negative, they're going to try to be negative. And so let's try to have the conversation in a positive way. So instead of saying no, you can say, I don't see how we can make this happen, or let's try to think about this. But just trying to work around instead of saying no. This is just a little bit technical. Instead of saying no, you can try to think about how to be positive. So let's think, how can we make this happen? Okay, let's work together. Okay, so you need a discount. So how can we make this discount happen? Well, maybe we can reduce the scope. Maybe you can give me something in return, maybe a better payment terms, a longer deadline. Maybe we can remove something from the project. So let's work with you. If you need a discount, all right, sure, we can work this out. But how can I still make this and run a profitable business? Something needs to change. Okay. So when you do this, you show them goodwill, and you show them that you want to make this happen. And you're basically a little bit moving the responsibility to them. Now they need to tell you, what they're giving you in return for you giving them what you want. And again, we're talking about money, but sometimes the negotiation is going to be about other things as well, such as payment terms and deadlines and support and number of iterations. So all of these things are things, there are things besides money here that are on the table. So again, you can say, okay, I'll give you a discount, but instead of 3 rounds of iterations, you're only getting 1. So everything is a trade-off, and you can use these things when you're negotiating. Now, there's a tactic that's called the acquisition audit. I took it from the book, I think, Never Split the Difference. He's the guy that mentioned the acquisition audit. And the acquisition audit, the way that it works is basically you start off by saying everything that's bad about the situation. Okay, so everything that you know that they're going to say, you're going to tell them. So look, I know that you think that I don't have experience. I know that you think that this is very expensive. I know that you think that I won't be able to do it on time. Now, you say exactly what you know their fears and concerns are, and by doing that, they feel like you understand them, and that kind of dissolve these accusations. So I don't know if you remember, if you ever saw that 8 Mile movie with Eminem, where he has kind of a battle rap with another rapper, and you should watch that scene. There's kind of a duel of rap, and he starts off by, the way that he wins is he starts off with, I know everything that you're about to say to me. You're going to say that I'm whatever, that I'm white trash, that I'm this and this and that. So he started off by saying everything that the other person was about to accuse him with, and by doing that, he kind of took away their ammunition. So you can use this tactic to take away everything that they were about to negotiate around you. You say, look, I do understand that. Now here's how we're going to work through this. The second thing is, if you get to an agreement, you need to get some kind of a commitment. So let's say that they ask you for some discount, and let's say a 10% discount, and you worked around this. So before you say yes to this, you should say, well, if we do this, if I give you the 10% discount, do we have a deal? And you want to hear them say yes, because that's basically a commitment. And you know that by getting that commitment, that's the last thing that they're going to negotiate for. So make sure that you ask them, do we have a deal if I do what you're asking me to do? Now, sometimes in the middle of negotiation, they will disappear. Okay, you sent this, they've replied on email, maybe you got on a call, maybe you need to revise your proposal, and sometimes they will disappear. And that stuff happens specifically if they're getting other proposals, or if they have other things on their mind, or if they need to consult with different people in their business. That stuff happens. Doesn't mean that they don't want to work with you. Always assume good intentions, but you need to follow up. That kind of is similar to following up if you're reaching out on email. So just don't feel bad writing them, not 5 times a day, but if they didn't answer for 2 more days or something like that, you can follow up and say, I want to know if we're progressing. Now, as a last resort, if they didn't come back to you, what I'm usually saying is look, right now I'm closing my booking for the upcoming months, and I'm not sure whether I should save availability for you. That kind of flips the script and they're now feeling like they're about to miss out on something that is scarce. I don't have a lot of time, and if they're not going to make a decision soon, they're going to miss out on the opportunity of working with me. Okay? So that's kind of the last resort if they didn't follow up or if they didn't make a decision. Now, here's the thing, and I've mentioned this at the beginning of the whole videos on sales. Most designers hate doing this, hate this process, because it's a process that brings up a little bit of tension. And we, especially I know that it's true about me, I like to avoid confrontations. Okay, so that's really painful and uncomfortable for me to do this, the negotiation and the sales and all of that. But because most people are like that, because most people feel like you do and I do, that means that if you grow this muscle and if you stay with it, you're going to win where most people are not going to win. Most people are not going to do the negotiation. Most people, or they're going to do it by just giving them whatever they want, or they're not going to follow up. But if you stay with it, even though it's uncomfortable, even though it's a little bit painful sometimes, you're going to win. And that's super important to keep in mind. Now, the last thing is you have to ask for the close, okay? And by doing that, I mean you need to tell them, look, you need to sign the proposal and you need to deposit the down payment. Just sending this to them, they need some kind of a call to action, okay? It's nice while you're talking, yeah, this project, here's the price and so forth, but then you need to close. You need to make sure that we're progressing, and you do that with a strong call to action. You need to tell them what to do next. That's also, I'm going to show you when we're talking about proposal, it needs to be part of the proposal, but you need to tell them, you need to give them this call to action. Please sign the proposal and then deposit the down payment, and then we can get started. And always, always, always make sure they agree in writing. This really helps. Besides kind of the legal side of things, this helps to get the commitment done. So whatever they said on the phone, just make sure that you either have a signed contract or proposal, or at least you have a reply in the email if you send them so I'm summing up what we talked on the phone, the project will go for this and those are the terms, and they say, yes, I agree. Always get the agreement in writing.
You can read gazillion books about negotiation and raising your price. You can learn how to negotiate with terrorists like the FBI, or you can watch gazillion YouTube videos about how to deal with objections and raise your prices. But here's the truth. When it comes down to the money time, when talking to the client, none of that is going to work. It's all bullshit. And let me explain why. How do I know? Because it actually happened to me. I read all these books. I watched all these, YouTube videos, and none of that works. Let me start off by sharing actually a personal story of how none of that worked for me. So very recently, we're living in this really nice house and we were renting it. And a couple of months ago, the homeowner told us that he's not going to renew the lease. He actually wants to sell the house. So we had to come up with either we, buy this house or we, leave to another house. And the truth is we were looking at alternatives, and there's nothing where we live here to rent or to house. There's actually not a lot of alternatives. Also, we don't want to move into a completely different neighborhoods. We have the kids at school, so we didn't have a lot of options. So we started negotiation, and I was trying to play out all the tactics that I learned in all of the books. And I read a lot of books about negotiation. I've talked a lot about negotiation on this channel. I tried to employ all of them. I was doing my research. I was coming out planned on how I'm going to, manage the calls and everything. And at the end of the day, there was a really huge gap between what we wanted to pay and what, he wanted for the house. And I tried to, explain, well, but other people charge different prices and this and that. And I tried all the tactics, but at the end of the day, he didn't budge, and I had zero alternatives. As I said, I couldn't move to a different house. I couldn't rent elsewhere. And so I had zero alternatives, and I ended up paying way more than I was planning or budgeting to pay for the house. So what does that mean for you? It basically means that the less options that you have, the more you are constrained in a negotiation. So at the end of the day, all you need to know about negotiation is the person who has more options wins. That's it. If you have 3 clients want to work with you and you have the options to pick between them, and you can only take one client because of that's your availability, immediately, with the rules of supply and demand, you can raise your prices and, you can choose between them. So you have the options. And that's exactly how you're going to raise your price. The more options that you have, you're going to have the confidence and the ability to just raise your price. And if it's not good for one client, maybe it's good for another client. So the number one role or job that you have as a freelancer is, how do I generate options for myself so that when at the end of the day I get to the negotiation table, I can raise my price and they won't have an option. They would have to say yes because they want to work with me and I have a lot of other options. So how do you actually do this? Well, there's a lot of ways to do that. Actually, the first thing, the number one thing that I think most freelancers don't think about is that if you have money in the bank because you saved up money because you're still working part-time or something, where you saved up kind of a buffer money, you have now the option to say no. Now that's an option, right? You don't have to close the project. You don't have to, agree on a lower price than what you want. You can raise your price. You can say, that's my price, take it or leave it, because you now have a valid option. Not taking the work, you'll be fine. Of course, the better alternative is have other clients as options. And to do that, you can do a lot of different things, right? You can talk to your friends, family, your network. You can start meeting new people to create new options for yourself. You can go out to events, you can hang out with people online, you can share your work online. So all of these things, all of these actions, at the end of the day, their main goal is to create options for you. And this should be, you can track this as a number. You can call this options. Some people call it leads or whatever. You need to track the number of options you have at any given point so that whenever you're talking to somebody, you're always very confident. It's okay if this doesn't work out, I still have options. And this will give you the confidence to go and raise your prices. And then you don't need any tactic. You don't need any negotiation. You don't need anything. You'll just know it's not a good fit. That's what I want. And if you're not cool with that, that's good. I have other options. And that confidence will make them understand that, oh my God, there's only one of you that can do you, but you have other alternatives. And so if they want to work with you, they have to pay. Today, clients that completely waste your time. So I just got an email from a designer friend. He was telling me a story about a client that approached him for a website, and then they had the initial meeting, and then after that, the client sent an NDA and then disappeared for a week and then came back for another meeting, and then initially after he got the proposal and the price, he disappeared again and then wanted another meeting. So it's become like already 3 or 4 meetings over multiple weeks. And it's just, when do you say no? When do you just cut it off because you understand they're just wasting too much of your time? So first of all, I want to start with setting the right expectations. Now, you have to understand, in general, not every potential client that you're going to talk to is going to end up being a client. So you don't want to just assume every conversation is a waste of time. You're going to know that, let's say on average, well, not on average, but maybe kind of a rough number would be from 5 clients I talk to, just one of them ends up being a client. That doesn't mean that talking to the other 4 is wasting my time. I just need to get those numbers running, right? So that is kind of the basic. You need to understand you will be talking to people who don't end up. That being said, you need to understand what are some red flags and when do you cut the line, and just to make sure that you're talking to relevant people versus non-relevant people. So there's a few things here. First, you need to have kind of a framework to understand what to expect, right? So I know that usually when a client would call me, it would involve first initial call to understand if this is a good fit. If that works well, then we'll schedule kind of a longer session, discovery session, maybe with some other parties from the client. That would be another call. After that, I would usually send a proposal. After that, they would usually pay, a down payment, and only then will actually kickstart the project. And by the way, that process in general usually takes around a month, at least from my experience for bigger projects. And so I go into it understanding that these are the time frames. That being said, if things are kind of like moving away from this pattern, which I like to go through, I understand that
these might be some red flags. So for example, if I had a conversation with a client regarding a price, and again, I always talk to clients about the price before I go ahead and make a proposal for them, because you want to set the expectation. You never want to surprise them with the proposal. That kind of reduces the risk that you're just wasting your time creating a proposal. But assuming that I have talked to them about the price, they said it sounds great, I've sent them a proposal, and now they've either disappeared or they're saying, hey, I want another meeting beforehand, then that would be kind of a flag. Wait, you said okay, but now it's not okay. So before taking on that meeting, I would probably ask, what has changed? Do you have additional information that you need that you didn't know that you're going to need? Are you not the actual decision making? So I'd probably go on this call to clarify, but before going on that call, I would want to make sure to understand that what is the information that you actually need to make a decision. And I want to make sure that we cover all of this information on this call, because obviously you can't have, oh, I just remember one more thing and one more thing and one more thing. That is kind of a red flag that this is probably how the design process is going to look like. Oh, another revision and another revision and another revision. You want to make sure that the clients are well organized from their own side and know how to make decision and know what information they need. Now, it is your responsibility to manage that process. You don't have to, expect that they'll be just good, right? Perhaps they never did a big design project in the past, and it's your role as a design professional to guide them through the process, meaning this is what's going to happen. We're going to have this meeting, and then I'll send you the proposal, and then you're going to pay the down payment. You're going to guide them through this. And if they have questions beyond that, which does happen from time to time, then you need to adjust or consider this a red flag. Having a client disappear, after you send them a proposal and waiting for a down payment, I said would be considered a red flag. And I would probably ping them to let them know. And I also, by the way, one thing that I do when I send a proposal is I say, look, here's the proposal. It's only valid for a week or 2 weeks because I need to know how to plan my upcoming weeks. If this is not paid and signed in the upcoming 2 weeks, then other clients want to work with me as well. And I can't guarantee that if you come back in 3 weeks and say, okay, we've decided to work with you, I might not be available. And I'm just saying this because it is true. I need to be able to plan my time. I can't just have, proposals out there in the open and then maybe 3 clients will sign them at the same time and I won't be able to handle all of them. So I do need to make sure that I have the capacity to serve the people who I give proposals to, and that's why I put a deadline on it. So, and this of course always puts pressure on them to make a decision within a time frame, because if you don't have a time frame to make a decision, then maybe people can assume that, I'll just sit on it, and then in a month or 2 when we actually, want to kickstart the project, I'll just sign it off and kick it off then. They might assume you'll be, unlimitedly available, but you want to make sure that they understand whether you have clients or not. This is just, you want to position yourself, as somebody who is busy, who is doing other things. And I'm not just here waiting for you to come whenever you want. So I feel like these kinds of setting expectations in terms of what the process might look like will help to decrease these kind of like time wasters. That being said, you do have to understand that this is dealing with human beings, right? And no process is just going to follow along. People are always going to have more questions. Things are not going to work out. There's going to have, things that you didn't expect coming, and some things might look a little bit different. So I think my general guidelines would be, as long as you set your expectations into what is acceptable and what is unacceptable, you'll know when that line is crossed between they are treating you as somebody who they can waste your time, or if you take your time seriously and if you consider your time valuable, you're not just giving it away at a whim, unless it's very well justified, then I think you will find out that clients treat you better and your time is more effectively spent.
Recently, we have a lot of freelancing stories, and this is another one based on a discussion I had with one of our students where he explained to me where he was working on a logo project for a client. He was giving them 2 different directions, and they were all already approved one of them and were about to move forward with the project, where in the middle of things they were like, by the way, we have another person who we showed this to. We didn't tell you about him, but he's also important and he wants to try a completely different direction. How about we do another direction? And that's obviously so frustrating and annoying. And we were having a discussion, what is the best way to move forward when a client does something like this? So here's my strategy for dealing with it. The first thing is be prepared in advance for things like this to happen. This is why when we budget and when we plan the project, we add at least 20% buffer, meaning if I think it's gonna take 10 hours, I'm actually planning and charging for 12 hours because these things that come out of the blue, you can predict them. They're always going to happen. There's always going to be something that you didn't plan for, which is why we budget for buffer. So when I was talking with my student, he said, I did budget for buffer, right? So I'm not going to lose money if I do this for them, but how do I react to them? Do I just tell them, okay, whatever? I mean, you can do whatever you want, and then they're going to come up with another request. Eventually it's going to run over our budget, and what's going to happen then? And so I said, yes, right. So first of all, you budget for it. That's great. Now you can actually help them and not lose money. But however, here's what I would do. One thing that you can do, right, is say, no, this is not what we agreed upon. This is not part of the contract. You didn't tell me before. I'm not doing this. And again, legit, if you look at the contract, you're probably right. However, is this the best thing forward? If you're really trying to help your clients and you really want the best thing for them, then perhaps listening to them and collaborating with them and make sure that they're actually happy at the end of the process is also important. So I wouldn't do that. What I would do, knowing that I have planned buffer for it, so I'm not gonna lose money, I'm still gonna be as profitable as I wanted and can accommodate this request, what I would do is I would help them. However, I would guilt trip them. And so here's what I would say. I would say, look, obviously we didn't plan for this. This is not what we agreed upon in the contract, right? You're asking me for something that is extra, something that by any means I should be asking you for more money for, right? This is the right thing to do. Look at the contract. This is completely, I'm going to have to reschedule and change all of my schedule. However, I like you. I really care about this project and I want this project to succeed. And so I'm going to do this, but I have to tell you, this is the last time that this is going to happen, right? So we can't accommodate any more extra changes like this. Now, I want to explain why I'm behaving this way and why I think this is the right way to approach. So here's what happened. I mean, and the third solution is to just say, yeah, sure, whatever. You're the client, I'll do it. And this is what I think most people will do. Most people would just say, okay, but then they would hate the client and they will be resentful and so forth, and they will feel like they've been pushed around and so forth. Now, with the way I would deal with it, I think I'm not resentful towards the client. However, I make them feel like I go above and beyond for them. That turns me immediately from, either I can be a person who doesn't want to collaborate, who's annoying, who only cares about the money. This is not a really good place to be with. On the other side, if I immediately just say, yes, whatever, I'll do whatever you want, now you've got this designer who's this push around and you can just push him, and he will do whatever you want. And in the middle, there's the professional high performer designer where although he knows he can say no to you, he decided to over deliver on their promises to you and basically do you a favor because they care about you. And this is the place where you want to be, because this is where they're like, here they hate you, right? If you just say no, they hate you. Here, they don't respect you anymore because you're just this push around who will do anything. But here in the middle, they love you. They're thankful for you. They know they've stepped over the line and they did something that they shouldn't do. And that's why you kind of guilt trip them into it. But then you've also went beyond and showed them that you're not here for the money because you care about them and you're going the extra mile. And that really immediately turned you into a professional that over delivers. And this is where I think that you want to be in your relationship with your clients. Now, again, you're not lying them, you're not tricking them or whatever. You're saying things as they are, and you just make them realize that they're asking you for an extra and that you are currently extra delivering. And it's really important that they know this, they recognize this, and they are thankful for you for going beyond, and they're not just going to take it for granted. Also, this way of setting up the expectation makes it way more likely that this is not going to happen again, because you've basically just told them, this is the last time that this is going to happen. If this happens again, I am going to charge you extra. So you're setting expectations. Although you could tell them immediately, I'm going to charge you extra, you went beyond this and you set the expectation for what's going to happen the next time. So those are my suggestions. Again, this is not like a random thing that might happen somewhere. This happens all the time. You should expect this to happen almost in any project. So you want to have this answer prepared, and you want to know how to deal with these situations when that happens. Today, I want to talk about finding rich clients. So a few days ago, I've published my new course about web design, the $10,000 website process, and I've posted it on Designer News. Now, if you don't know Designer News, basically it's a great website where you kind of vote up on new things in the design world. But it's also very famous for having a lot of cynicism and criticism in the comments. And so Sasha Grief actually commented on my post. And Sasha is somebody that I really highly respect in the design world. And he actually mentioned kind of as a comment on one sentence in the website that says what really goes into designing the kind of website that clients happily pay high prices for. He said, finding rich clients. It might seem obvious to some, but freelancing successfully is much more about picking the right clients than anything else. So I think this is kind of a controversial saying. While I do agree with Sasha, and I talk about this all the time, that you cannot charge high prices from clients that doesn't have the money to pay for, right? But I do think that it's also very crucial to know how to deliver to this website. So I think what Sasha meant with his comment is a lot of designers already know how to do great work. And if they know how to do great work, again, they can't sell great work to people without money. So it's much more important for them to try to invest in finding great clients. I mean, they can't be successful without great clients. So I think it is a combination of both. I mean, you have to know how to do good work and how to deliver good work, but you also need to know and focus about finding the right client. And yes, rich clients, I don't know that rich clients is the right definition, but clients that has budget. So for me, in my case, the way, because I also started my career, I was working for, I would call this poor clients, right? Clients that don't have smaller businesses, that didn't have huge budgets, and they were paying me low sums of money for my design. I was very frustrated about this. Today, I can easily say that it's obvious they were paying me a lot of money. They didn't have a lot of money. You can't charge $10,000 from a business that doesn't have even a marketing budget, and they're not making $10,000 per month, right? It's obvious that they can't afford this. And a lot of times we tend to be mad at our clients. They're not willing to invest in design, but you have to realize if they don't have money to pay salary for themselves, which is the situation with a lot of small businesses in the world. They barely can pay the salary of the founders. If they can't do this, obviously they're not going to invest or pay high prices for design. So you have to work with people who has, I would call it large problems, right? So if a business has a scale, has a turnover of a lot of money, their problems and your ability as a designer to solve their problems increases by a lot. If they have something in their business, an opportunity or something that doesn't work, which costs them a lot of money, costs them $1 million in a year, the fact that, let's say, their website sucks and doesn't convert a lot. If they have this problem, then you can very easily explain how having
a high value and a great website that loads fast, that converts, that looks great, that creates trust, you can really explain how that would create enormous value for them, create, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in sales, and then making an investment of $10,000 for this website seems like a no-brainer. So for me personally, the way that I made this move, and I have to be super honest that I made this move to reach clients unconsciously. I didn't realize what's happening until after it happened. So it's easy to say, I didn't plan for this, but it's easy for me to see it now from, behind. So for me, that transition was moving to work with early stage startups after they raise some money. So in that specific stage in a startup's life, after they raise money, they're in a situation where they're a very small team, like maybe 3-4 founders or a very core team, and they just raised like $1 million. So now they're rich, and now they're thinking, what is the thing that we can do with that money that we just raised that can create and really increase our chances of success in the marketplace? And in that position, it's really easy to explain to them why great brand, great website, great product design can really improve their chances of succeeding, really can improve their chances of maybe raising the next round if you help them to, tell their story correctly and design the deck for their next round of investing. And so for me, understanding that specific time point for that specific client, those were my rich clients. So again, as I said, I didn't plan for this, but now I realize that it's much easier for me to charge high prices from people that has the money. If I'd have to do it all over again, now I can really focus on understanding who are the people with money. So you might be asking yourself, okay, so how do I find rich clients? And it's for me, it's obvious that there's no prescription because there's a lot of types of rich clients, right? There are, let's say, restaurant that has turnovers in the millions. There are, I work with tech startups. So obviously there's big companies that has big turnaround. There are small companies like startups that just raised a lot of money. There are other rich people in all kinds of place. A lot of businesses, there's a lot of, let's say, just rich people that have very, very rich families. So even I'm just throwing an example, but just the branding for their daughter's wedding is going to be, they can invest tens of thousands of dollars, and they're doing this. People are doing like crazy event with crazy branding for their daughter's wedding because they have tons of money. So how do you reach out? How do you connect to those people? That really depends on where you are in the world, who's your social network, and who you can reach out to. Some of that might be, just personal connections and people that how you can get into touch with people who have a lot of money. Other ways are kind of organization that you volunteer. One of the things that I did when I just moved out as a freelancer, I started volunteering at a kind of a hackathon type of thing for social causes. And I was working there for free, just volunteering on social projects. But the people that were working there were working in what you might call rich startups. So that was my technique to get into and create a social network of people who are with businesses that has money at the moment. There's infinite ways because there's infinite types of rich people and rich clients. You have to find what's really interesting for you because obviously you can, like for me, I'm not interested in doing branding for rich people's daughters, right? For somebody that might be the perfect work and they might go there. For me, that's not. So you have to find kind of the sweet spots of something that you really want to do with people that have the money. That's how you'll find your perfect niche and you'll be successful as a freelancer.
Today I want to talk about habits. A lot of time we're looking for kind of like the secret of success and all that kind of things. But I think there's not really like a secret or one thing that if you do will make you successful. But I do think that there are some habits. And by habits, I mean things that you do regularly and they become part of your life. And if you behave that way, if you develop these habits, I think that your chances of success in whatever it is that you want to do changes, right? But so if you want to be a freelancer, you need to develop habits that are contributing to the success of freelancers. So I'll share what I think have worked well for me and I think can work well for you as well. Well, let's dive into them. Habit number 1, never eat alone. And here's what I mean by that. Freelance is basically, at the end of the day, a relationship business. You're helping other people. You're always working with other people. You're giving service, right? It is a service business at the end of the day. So it's all about relationship. It's how well you work with your clients and whether they want to recommend you to other clients after, after you finish working together, but also the other people that you meet, will they become your clients, is really developed by the relationship that you have. And I've created a habit for myself, instead, because we work alone most of the time as freelancers, to never eat alone. And by that, I go out to lunch with either friends, past clients, or people that I think are interested, and develop relationship with them. And by doing that, some of them become clients, some of them recommend other people who might need my services to become my clients. And that's how you grow your kind of relationship, network, whatever you want to call this. But I found that because this is a relationship building, eating together with other people is really fundamental to building these relationships. Now, even though right now we're in lockdown and, I can't go out, there is no restaurant as of recording this video here in Israel. There's lockdown, there's no restaurants, there's nothing like that. We still do this. I still invest time in either doing kind of Zoom lunches. So I just ordered food. It, by the way, it just came here. So I'm going to eat food and I'm going to have a Zoom chat with a friend or somebody that I haven't seen in a while, just to keep that relationship going. So it is still possible, even if you're working remotely, even if you don't have people next to you, it's still fun and highly, highly valuable to develop that relationship of, if you're working alone, just don't eat alone. Find somebody to share your meal with, whether it is physically or on Zoom. So this is the first habit you need to develop. Second habit that I think is highly, highly important is always leave time. So carve out a little time to keep learning, no matter where you are. Because as freelancers, there's two things. One of them is you'll need multiple skills that you for sure can't master them all. So hopefully you've mastered design, which is, if that's what you're doing, you need to master that. So hopefully you've mastered that. But if not, spend time learning that. But after that, you'll figure out that you need to master negotiation, business, finance, marketing, all these other things that you need to take care of as a freelancer. You need to spend time learning them and improving, because you wear so many hats as a freelancer. So always, no matter, and I'm still doing this to this day. So right now I'm building a team here in Flux Academy. So I carve out time to learn how to be a better manager, where to find talent, how to develop talent. I still always carve out time to always make sure that I'm learning. So make sure a piece of your day, a piece of your week somewhere, find and carve out some time for learning so that you can always grow. That's basically skills. On top of that, there's software, which is always changing. Learn new tools, staying up to date with how to do your job the best that you can. You always need to carve out time. So make that a habit of learning and keeping growth and skills up to date. The third habit that I think is crucial for freelancers is tracking. And by tracking, meaning where does your time go? Your biggest asset as a freelancer is your time. How do you invest it? How long are you working with clients versus how long are you talking with prospect clients? How long are you working on proposals? You need to keep track on that so you can really understand where your time goes. Is this project profitable? Is it not profitable? Should you spend more time on marketing? Should you stop this project because you've overrun it? You have to keep track of your time. I've recently made a video about how I do my daily tracking, so we'll link this here so you can check it out. But starting this habit of really, at the end of the day, understanding what do we do today, how long did things take, keeping track of what's going on in your day and in your week and in your month, that habit alone will give you amazing visibility into how your freelance business actually looks like, and will make improving it much, much easier. So recently I've posted on my Instagram a bunch of these myths that are in the discussion about freelancing, and people went wild. So first of all, if you're not on my Instagram account, be sure to follow, because I post awesome stuff there every day. And I do want to expand on the topic here today, because all advice, including mine, is biased. We all share what worked for us and what didn't work for us. However, you must understand that when you get advice from people, including me, you get some person's perspective, and that's definitely not like the truth. And I feel like a lot of people present their opinion as truth, and that really limits what people think or understand. And specifically about freelance, I feel like there's a lot of incorrect advice. So today I want to share my perspective, but the point of this video is, remember, everything, including what I say, has two sides to every story, and you need to make sure that you hear both sides so that you can make an informed decision and the best way forward for you. So let's start with lie number one. Calling yourself a freelancer is bad. Don't call yourself a freelancer. Be a consultant. Because if you're a freelancer, then your clients are going to treat you badly, and they're thinking that you're only going to execute, and they're not going to respect you, and they're not going to pay you a lot of money. This is, from my experience, completely not true. Now, look, I also want to sell strategic advice, and I also want to be a highly paid consultant, and I am. However, when my clients are looking for somebody to help them with branding or help them build a new website, they are not looking for a consultant. The reason is that they think you have to understand what they're thinking. And what they think is that consultants are people who only consult, give advice, whether they need somebody to actually execute and do the work. And while I do give strategic advice, and I do help them with strategy, and I do help them with ideas, I also end up doing the execution for them. So if I call myself a consultant, they're actually confused, and they're thinking, no, this guy is not the right guy for me. Now, it is your job when you're meeting a client to position yourself as somebody who's not just taking orders, but somebody who asks questions, somebody who's trying to understand and trying to bring value on a strategic level so that you can price yourself, accordingly. But that has nothing to do with how you call yourself. And when you're saying I'm a freelancer, that really clearly just defines the way that you're going to work together. You're not going to hire me full time. We're just going to have this contract that, I'm going to help you with one project. It's pretty descriptive to the working relationship, and it just clarifies this. So if somebody tells you that by calling yourself a freelancer, you can't make a lot of money, you can't have respect from clients, that is, I want to tell you from my experience, and I've built like a multi-six-figure business as a freelance designer. I call myself a freelancer. That's not a problem at all. It helps my clients when I call myself a freelancer. So that's point number one. Consider this. Number two, work and travel. Everybody has these days the dream of being a remote freelancer. I'm going to work with great clients and I'm going to travel the world. And look, I know that some people are doing it and they're posting it on the internet, and they're going to tell you that they're going to teach you how to do this so that you can live your dream life and travel and work at the same time. And again, while some people do that, I want to tell you that from my experience, that is very, very hard and not ideal situation, okay? Specifically, when you're building relationship with clients, and freelancing is a relationship business, and when you're working with clients, first of all, the best and most optimal way to work with clients is to work with them face-to-face. Meet them, go into their office, go to meeting, because information flows and collaboration works best when it's face-to-face. I'm not saying that remote is impossible, and I do work remotely with clients, but a lot of how things happen is the best happen when they're happening face-to-face. Now, I want to say, I think look at the world around you and ask yourself, are the best designers or businesses in the world are built by people who are, traveling remotely? No. So I'm not saying that it's impossible. I'm not saying you can't do this. Maybe you can, but I just want to clarify that it's very, very hard and very, very not ideal. Look, I take vacations, and when I go on vacation, I do work with my laptop. I can work from anywhere, but it doesn't mean that it's ideal to travel and work at the same time. It's very, very hard when you need to think about where am I going to sleep tomorrow? Where am I going to eat tomorrow? It does take a lot of your mental space and mental energy. And when you're focused on traveling, it's very hard to be focused on delivering your best work and best service ever for your clients. So I'm just saying, consider this. For me, what works well, I do work remotely with clients, but I work here in my office. I can focus on doing the best work, and I do take vacations. And when I do take vacations, if I need to service my clients and do some work, yeah, I can work remotely. But that's not how I build a successful business while traveling the world and building a great business. So that's my opinion. Again, some people are doing it, but I feel like this is basically because that's the dream for everybody. Everybody wants to travel the world. Everybody wants to, not be stuck in an office. So it's basically just a dream that a lot of people play on to sell you stuff, but it's actually not a very ideal to build a successful business. Line number 3, freelance is unstable. Oh, you've got ups and downs, and then you have clients and you don't have clients. Now, there's 2 things I want to say. Look, most businesses, which are, let's say, not subscription businesses, have ups and downs and sometimes are unstable. Even if you think about Amazon, there is no stability. Sometimes they sell and sometimes they can't sell. They do have some subscription model with the Prime, but let's assume before they had Prime, sometimes people needed to buy something, so they bought. And if they didn't need anything, they didn't buy. It's not as predictable, right? But if you're serious about building your freelance business like I am, then you start thinking about cash flow management. You know that, when the holiday season hits, not everybody's going to hire you, so you're going to have a low month. And when they need to finish the budget or have a new budget, then they're going to have more money to spend. So that's just understanding the business cycles, and every business has its own cycles. Once you understand that, you learn how to work with that. And by separating your business finances from personal finance, which I recommend doing, I have a video about this, then you can pay yourself a fixed salary even if your revenue from freelance is not stable and not recurring every month. So it's just understanding how to manage cash flow better, and then you can create yourself the safety of a stable income, even though freelance revenue can go up and down. And again, that's true for most businesses. So that's not an excuse. That's not something that you need to be afraid of. You just need to understand that's the business cycle for freelance. How do you work with that? How do you mitigate the risk so that you can have a stable income to pay your rent, your family, for your family, whatever. So that's line number 3. Line number 4, freelancing websites are bad. Oh, don't go to Upwork. Don't go to the whatever Fiverr. Don't go to them because it's bad. People don't pay a lot of money. People are not, don't respect design or whatever. I want to say, honestly, first of all, I don't have personal experience selling myself as a freelancer on those platforms, but I do have experience hiring other creatives on these platforms. And I know that I have paid thousands of dollars and have built very long-term relationships with people who I have found on those platforms. And just one example is my amazing copywriter, Fabiana, which I've met on Upwork. I've hired her on Upwork, pay her thousands of dollars, and we now have a very long-term relationship. Super, super happy with her. I've met other talented people on the platform and have paid them a lot of money. So I do think, and on the other side, I do know other designers like I think Helen, you might know her from Instagram. She have built a very successful freelance business as selling her services and being kind of a top seller on Upwork. So I do think it is a marketplace. Like every marketplace, there are high-paying clients and there are low-paying clients. And the fact that there is just a lot of low-level sellers on the platform doesn't mean that there's no high-level sellers on the platform and high-paying clients on the platform. It's just a platform. I'm not saying it's the best. Maybe it is the best for you. Every platform has its ups and downs. If you are not, let's say I'm based in Tel Aviv, Israel, so there's a lot of big tech around me. So it's easy for me to go and network. But people who are living outside of big cities, maybe it's not as easy for them to go out and network. And so platforms like Upwork can get them closer to high-paying clients. And so it is a platform. You have to understand the rules of the platform, and you have to understand what works for you, what doesn't work for you. But it's not a general. Don't believe those generalization like this is bad. This is bad because it didn't work for you, but there's other people, a lot of other people that it worked well for them. So just, learn the rules and understand if you want to play the rules and if you want to win, because it is possible to win. All right, I'm excited about this. Line number 5, you won't work on big projects. So I think that was something that kind of made me think maybe freelance is not for me, because I'll always have to work with small, medium businesses and I won't be able to work on impactful projects. But I've also found out to be not true. And I have a lot of freelancer friends who've been hired by Google, by other great big companies, because, the search for talent these days is extreme. And I know that if you're now in a position where you don't have a lot of opportunities, it might sound ridiculous to you that I tell you that big companies are looking like crazy. They're like really hunting for talent. They're willing to pay a lot of money to find the right talent, and they're hiring because they can't hire all their full-time position. A lot of them are also hiring freelancers. That's why freelancer today can enjoy working with big companies, maybe big tech companies or big companies in general, enjoy their big budgets, enjoy the impact of working on big projects. You just need to get yourself in the position to enjoy these opportunities, but they are out there and it's completely possible if that's what you're looking to do. All right. You must have a portfolio website. That is the last one. And I know that I am a little bit to blame about this because I yell this all the time that you need to have a portfolio website. But the truth is, if we're being honest here, this is completely real talk. It's not necessary, right? Will it be helpful? Yes. Will it increase your possibility of your chances of getting hired and getting seen and getting exposure? Yes, it is. Is it necessary? Is it mandatory? Do you must have a portfolio website? Now that the truth is that it's not. I had a lot of years where I didn't have anything up, or I had something very old and updated, because the way that I get clients is by network, referrals, and recommendation. Those things are so much stronger than, seeing a random website. And again, most clients do not know how to judge a website, do not know how to judge your portfolio. So a recommendation from somebody else is so much more stronger than just browsing through a website that, it's not mandatory. I do think, again, I do think that it's helpful and you should do this, but do not use this as an excuse to say, well, I'm working on my website and I've been working on it for 7 months now, and until it's not ready, no, I can't go out and get clients because I don't have a website yet. So many designers are using this as an excuse to not go out, to not close sales. And I'm just telling you, this is an excuse. So stop with the excuses. Yeah, work on a website, but do not use this as an excuse to not go forward, to not starting your freelance business, to not starting getting clients and putting yourself out there, whether you're doing it on social media, on freelancing website or whatever. No excuses. You can go out there and build yourself a freelance business. Last year, I was fortunate enough to cross $300,000 as a freelance designer. And I want to share with you some of the key takeaways that you can implement in your business so it will help you grow. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that this is going to shortcut your process and you're going to make a lot of money next year. Building a freelance is a long journey. And if you've seen the video that I recently posted about my journey over the last 18 years, then you know that it takes time to build these things. But looking back at the things that I did some very specific things at major turning points that I think that if I understood them or could have applied them earlier, it might help me do things smarter, faster, and avoid some of the pains and failures. So I want to share them with you, and let's get started. The first lesson and understanding after doing this for 18 years is that freelance is a relationship business. If you don't understand this, or if you are not good with relationships, if you don't enjoy meeting people and making friends and hanging out, I want to be honest with you, freelance might not be for you, because you might be an amazing designer, developer, you can do amazing job, but if you're not into handling people, that is going to be a major blocking point for you, because relationships is, first of all, that's what's going to help you get clients. And that's a long process of building a network, developing relationship, but it's also part of, how you work with people. And half the work is managing the process and working with clients and giving them good service. And if you don't enjoy that, if you don't enjoy
having relationship with new people, with your clients and with friends in general, it's going to be very, very painful. So you need to understand that. You need to understand that a major part of your point is building relationships. So it's not a waste of time. It's not a waste of time to go to events. It's not a waste of time to go to lunch meeting with people, to go to coffee with people. It's not unproductive time. No, this is something that is super, super important and crucial. And if you don't spend time building relationships, now again, you don't necessarily know that the relationship that you're building right now might lead to something. And you don't have to only build relationship out of the need for them to convert into potential clients. No, it's just building relationship and honestly making friendship because you're interested in those people and you want to hang out with them. But if you don't do this, then long term, you're going to stay out without clients, because that's the real mechanism. And it takes years to build this to bring you regularly clients, good clients, high level clients. So again, understand this before you're going into this. If this is not for you, you can stop right now and don't waste any more of your time. Lesson number 2, you need to get, if you want to scale, if you want to reach, multiple 6 figures, you need to get your financials in order. And there's few parts of that. First step is separate your business bank account from your home bank account. This actually took me, it's not up until, so I've been doing this for 18 years. I didn't do this up until like 3 years ago, I think, when I realized that by having my freelance mixed up inside my home, I can't really understand what's going on and I can't treat it as a business. And if you want to scale, if you want to make freelance full-time, if you want to reach multiple 6 figures, you need to take this seriously. And so to understand what's going on, even have a clue what's going on in your business, you need to first of all separate bank accounts, treat it as a different entity, start keeping track of what's going on. Yes, it means, working with spreadsheets to know exactly how much money you made this month, last month, what you're projecting to have next month. So you know that, you're not going to have this huge dip, or if you will, that you have some kind of a financial cushion that's going to hold you because freelance is sometimes ups and downs, and sometimes you might get like a huge down payment that should last you for 3 months. And so by having your financials in order, by actually making yourself, like sending yourself a regular salary to your home account every month, that really, really puts you in a position to succeed and to scale. Treating this as a real business. And I do suggest you take some time and really understand this finance thing. It's not hugely complicated. There's actually a book that my coach recommended to me called, I think, The Blueprint for Insanely Successful Business, something like that. Really understand the key documents and kind of like spreadsheet that you need to understand, which are cash flow, profit, loss, and balance sheet. I do have some videos covering the difference between them on my YouTube channel, so you can look it up, or I'll try to link them somewhere. But you need to get a grasp on this, because basically, these are the metrics of your business. And if you can't read the metrics of your business, you don't know that you're going in the right direction. And obviously, you want to go up, right? You want to scale, you want to make more. So you need to see the trends. You need to know that you're improving, and you need to measure things. So get your financials in order. Again, this might not be sexy. This might not be why you went freelancing, because you want freedom and you want to handle in design and creativity, but that's part of running your own business. So either do it or find somebody else to do that for you, hire somebody. For me now, at this point, by the way, my wife does that for me and we have kind of a weekly meeting. But for a lot of time, I had to do this myself while I was suffering. I didn't enjoy this, but I did this because it's just something that you have to do if you want to build a successful freelance business. Lesson number 3, you got to take risks. I know this might sound like a cliche or something like that, but if you don't take the risk of asking somebody, like meeting a potential client and asking for double the price, for example, of what you charge, well, you are scared shitless, and you know that they might like blow you off, and you might lose the project because of it. If you don't take the risk to try to jump into the next level, it's just not going to happen. There's I don't remember who said this. I don't know if I heard it on Gary Vee or something. Like, the financial reward that you get correlates with the amount of risk and stress that you're willing to take. If you're not willing to take risks, and it's called risk because it might go wrong, because you do not know for certain that this is going to succeed. That's why it's a risk. If you're not going to take the risk of raising your price, trying something new, go somewhere, pay to go for a conference or get a flight to meet with somebody, it might not work out and you might lose. That's why it's called a risk. But if you don't do this, then this is the likelihood that you will improve and you'll get to new places is really, really low. Now, I do not suggest, and I'm a father for two, so I have to pay the rent and I have to make sure that my kids have something to eat. So while I do take risks, I try to do this in a kind of a calculated way. And this goes back into the earlier point about getting your financials in order. I do have a buffer saved up, so I know that I can take certain risks. And even if I lose, I have some cushion, to lean on. It's not like I'm taking risks and we might be evacuated and leave on the streets next month. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you need to take calculated risks, but think about what will enable you to take risks. So for me, it's like having a buffer of like 3 months in the bank account. I know that I can do silly stuff that might not work out. If that doesn't work out, I have some kind of a cushion on it, but I do still have to take the risk. Otherwise, nobody's growing and scaling their business while being comfortable and doing the same things over and over again. So you need to try new things that might not work out. Lesson number 4, the more you take on, the more you earn. So this kind of goes back into my full stack philosophy that I think that if you can provide more value and more services to your client and to the people that you're working with, you're going to be able to charge them more. So let me give you a few examples. So I'll go back into web design because that's the easiest for me. When I was starting out and I used to do the design and hand it over to developers that either they would hire and I would hire, I would get paid only for the design part. But once I took on the development phase, now I'm developing using Webflow. So I was able to charge more because I own more of the project. And it goes the same for, let's say, you can SEO, for example, or setting up analytics or writing the copy on the project that you're working on. Initially, when I started off, I was very narrow-minded. I was like, I don't care about those things. I want to focus on design. But once I've kind of broadened my interest and I was like, you know what? I'll do that. I'll write the copy. You know what? I can take the photos for you. The more responsibilities that I was willing to take on, the more my clients trusted me, the bigger the scope of the project became, and the more I earned. So take more responsibility, no matter what it is, take more of it. You'll be able to charge more. You'll get more trust and respect from your clients. And lesson number 5, you have to start delegating. At some point, if you don't want to work unlimited hours, and actually you do not have unlimited hours, then you have to start delegating some of the work. Now, I basically went to become a freelancer, not because I wanted to work endless nights, weekend, that type of stuff. I finish my day at 6 p.m. so I can go home and spend time with my wife and my kids. And so I'm limited, right? The amount of hours I can work is limited, and that's a resource. And if you want to keep scaling, you have to think about delegating. Now, I had a lot of debates about the kind of like starting an agency, and I probably have like 5 videos on this channel about should I start an agency, and I was debating this a lot. At the end of the day, I came to the conclusion that I do not want to start an agency. I don't want to start hiring people full-time and managing like a design studio. That's just not what I want to do. I enjoy living kind of the solo life, and that's just what I wanted to do. That being said, it does not mean that I cannot delegate stuff, and there are 2 benefits to it. First of all, you can stop doing things that you hate doing and that you're not super good at doing. And I've mentioned that my wife helps me with the finances, which released multiple hours per week for me from not doing the invoicing, tracking of spreadsheet, and that type of stuff. So that delegating that stuff to her increased the free time that I have to focus on the things that I'm good at, doing the client work and doing the actual design. But even when it comes down to design, For a long period of my time, I would do everything myself. And, I've mentioned before, I think that the more you do, the more you earn, the more responsibility you take. But I realized at some point that by delegating specific things, which are not my core skills, allows me to actually provide better work. So I've started delegating illustration and sometimes image making and other aspects of my work to specific professionals that can do even better work than I am. And I still get to be the designer, the art director, the project manager, the strategist together with my clients. But some of the execution, I get help sometimes. And I don't have to hire full-time employees for that. I have kind of a network of professionals that I specifically work with based on the needs of a specific project, besides my wife, who's like on a retainer, she's helping me on a regular basis. But that's not kind of like a full-time, I would say, job to manage the finances of a freelancer. So you have to start thinking about how do you become smarter and about your time and about the things that you're focusing on, because otherwise you won't be able to scale. So you have to learn how to delegate and what to delegate. As I said, it comes down to the things that you don't like and the things that you think that some people can do better than you, and have you focused on the core thing. Now, I want to say kind of a bonus thing which overlays all the lessons here. You have to keep improving no matter what you do. So you start having a systems, right, as a freelancer, and every one of them needs to be improving. The way that you handle your financials need to be improving. The way that you handle your client relationship needs to be improving. Even, you need to learn new skills. There might be a new software that you need to learn. Or even if it's not a new software, even if you've been working for years with Photoshop, you might still find a new process to be more efficient with Photoshop, and by that allowing you to spend less time doing a specific task. You always need to think about and see your whole freelance life, career, business as a bunch of systems that each one of them can be optimized and improved, and you should be spending time thinking about how to improve every facet of it. One thing that I didn't mention, but that I think is crucial, is spending doesn't have to be every week, but it doesn't have to be something, but sometimes take some time off to think about, here's my business, what can I do to improve specific things on it? And every time spend like an hour thinking about a specific aspect of your business. How can we improve that? And as a freelancer, you are your own biggest asset. So the way that you handle your time, the way that you handle your tasks, if you invest in yourself, that's going to pay off in your business.
All right. If you've spent 2.5 hours together with me, I want to say thank you. I highly appreciate your time. And I know that if you'll take action on this advice, you will see results. I'm hoping that you will actually take action on this and see changes in your freelance career. As I've previously said, we do have full-on courses. If you want to work with us, with our mentors, if you want to take your business seriously, build the skills and the abilities to freelance, then please check out our full-on courses below this video. And I hope to see you in our courses. Cheers.